Hello and welcome to the first conversation in a series we're launching here at the Minneapolis Foundation on the state of Minnesota nonprofits. In January, we recorded a conversation with Nanoko Sato about the challenges facing the nonprofit world here in the state, in the sector. And you can find that chat on our YouTube channel, the Minneapolis Foundation's YouTube channel. So what we'd like to do now is an extension of that conversation to help our fund holders learn more about how the changing landscape affects nonprofits. By highlighting the work of specific nonprofits, we hope to educate people about how rapid changes are affecting organizations on the ground and equip you with information to make your giving more impactful in this moment. My name is Tom Weber, and I'm joined here today by Chris LaTondresse, who is the Executive Director of Beacon Interfaith Housing, which does a lot of important work in the affordable housing world. Chris, thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Tom. Happy to be here.
And say more about your organization and how your organization is doing right now.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for the opportunity to share a little bit about Beacon's work and what we're seeing right now. You know, broadly speaking, Beacon is a nonprofit affordable housing developer here in the state of Minnesota, with a particular and unique focus, not just on affordable housing broadly, but on a very specific niche in affordable housing called permanent supportive housing. This is housing that is designed principally as a solution to end homelessness. It's when you break that down, permanent supportive housing. You know, this is permanent housing, so this is not shelter. These are homes. Every one of our residents has a lease. It's a place of their own, but it's also deeply affordable for those at extremely low or even no incomes. So that's the permanent supportive. You know, all of our supportive housing properties have on-site services that are targeted to whatever that population of need is in that building. And you know, broadly speaking, across our portfolio, we have a few different types. We do what's often referred to as a housing first model, serving chronically homeless individuals who fit that federal or state definition. And it's really about, I mean, in many cases, welcoming folks directly out of encampments into their first place of permanent residence. It's really challenging work, but it's really rewarding work. We also serve youth. We have 4 properties that are for youth exiting homelessness. And then a growing edge of our work is for family supportive housing with one property we just opened up here in Hopkins, my hometown, Vista 44, that's serving 50 families, half of those exiting homelessness, half of those with some involvement protection system. But you know, big picture and succinctly, you know, since our founding a little over 20 years ago, Beacon has really served as an inspiration and guide for those who want to put their faith or even just their values. We welcome people of diverse faith backgrounds or no faith background at all into the work, but who want to put their values into action in service to creating housing opportunities for those that have often had long and complex histories of homelessness. And what started with a single congregation really asking how to better love their unhoused neighbors, in that case literally living in their parking lot, has grown now into the single largest holding of permanent supportive housing in the state of Minnesota. About 1 in 10 units in Minnesota are held by Beacon.
So in this moment, what are the unique challenges and opportunities for an organization like Beacon?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'll say. This work has never been more challenging or more needed. And I'll start with why it's needed now more than ever before. You know, big picture, anyone who's just awake and paying attention in our communities know that we have an intersecting crisis of housing affordability and homelessness that harms individuals and families, makes our communities less compassionate, less welcoming, in some cases less safe, and that really imperils our collective future. We need to get out in front of this housing and homelessness challenge. What's made it even more challenging in the current moment is, you know, the mental health crisis, the opioid epidemic, the aftershocks of a pandemic economy, which have if you were already doing well before the pandemic, you're probably doing okay now. If you were extremely vulnerable before the pandemic, you may be even more economically vulnerable today, and that's certainly been our experience. So we know permanent supportive housing in particular is it's a compassionate response that's aligned with our values. It's also evidence-based and extremely effective in setting folks up for long-term housing stability and other success in their life. And it's also cost-effective. I mean, just to put a finer point on just costs in housing and then costs to other systems if somebody becomes unhoused. The single most expensive place that you can spend the night is in jail. The second most expensive place is in the emergency room. These are often in our community right now the safety net that we have for folks that have a crisis. The least expensive place to spend the night is safe in your own home, in your own bed. And so this is a cost-effective solution as well. But it's also been more challenging. The operational complexity connected to all those factors I mentioned, the increased costs associated with that, have also just made this more challenging than ever before. And that's a headwinds that Beacon and all of our peers in the nonprofit affordable housing space and the supportive housing space in particular are facing right now.
So as we've had a new administration come into office and presented a bevy of orders, right? Just a lot of action from Washington. What impact are all the changes having on your organization, which I believe does receive some federal funds?
Yeah, it's among the headwinds that we're facing right now. So everything that I just described was true 2 months ago and a year ago. I'll say, the past couple of weeks have been somewhat disorienting and alarming for anyone in this space of, ultimately organizations like Beacon are a reflection of our community ambition to make our communities stronger. And we rely on generous contributions from individuals, but, we also draw on significant public generosity, including from the federal government. So to pay for services in several of our supportive housing sites, we draw on various HUD programs, for example. And I think, like many of your viewers, on the one hand, just as a citizen, I experienced the news a couple of weeks ago with this OMB, Office of Management and Budget directive, which very alarmingly, in a blanket way, said we're freezing all federal grants, at least grants of a certain type. So I lived that headline, we lived that headline, but then to immediately go and try to draw on our federal grants that we draw on monthly to pay for services for residents, to be completely frozen out of that for 36 hours. Yeah, I mean, I'll say that is, add that to the new challenges and headwinds that we're facing right now. It certainly brings an additional level of uncertainty and risk. Now, that order was reversed about 24 hours later, and we in fact have now been able to make draws on some of these grants. But it really, is we have to start contemplating a future where, number one, we need to make really powerful, effective cases both to our community and to policymakers for why these programs matter, but also in the worst case scenario, imagining, gosh, how do you actually provide services and permanent supportive housing if one of your key partners and what you assume to be allies in that work takes a major step away from that work. And I mean, just to get really specific and particularly, like one of the grants that we were trying to draw on was our TLP grant. If you Google HUD TLP, you'll see it's a program. It's the Transitional Living Program, and it's specifically a reflection of a longstanding federal ambition to end youth homelessness, and an understanding that to end youth homelessness, you both have to provide housing and you have to provide services to young people. You have to help them with mental health services. You have to help them get a GED. You got to help them with job skills training and things like that. These are the kind of services that we provide in our youth properties, but we avail ourselves of these TLP funds in order to pay for that. So it's sort of like when these get walked back, it's like, well, gosh, who in our community, if you're going to ask your neighbor, isn't in support of helping a young person with complex histories of homelessness get their GED and get job skills training to set them up for success in life. It's just sort of mind-boggling that we even had to contemplate that.
Well, as we look forward then and we look ahead, what should people know about the work you'll be doing in the next 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look ahead, we will, on the one hand, continue doing what we have always done and been committed to, which is, you know, our commitment to protecting, sustaining, and growing permanent supportive housing as a solution that starts with putting each and every one of our residents at the center, and out from there engaging in the systems change work needed to better steward it. I'll say practically in this moment where we have to now contemplate and scenario plan around what happens in a universe where suddenly federal funds that we have availed ourselves of in the past are either frozen again or eliminated entirely. I mean, bottom line is we just don't know what will happen, but responsible organizations have to forecast and scenario plan for that. And I think, one thing every one of your listeners can do, and Beacon is out in force with our advocacy efforts, enlisting communities in this way, is every single one of your listeners has a voice, and to continue to lean closer to the organizations that you support, and advocate for these programs to continue. And then also for those of us that are in a fortunate enough position to give generously ourselves, I think this is one of those moments. I'll say, I'm a supporter of Beacon. I'm a supporter of other organizations as well. I mean, we're asking questions as a family of, what does it mean to do a little bit more than we've ever done before in support of our neighbors and in support of our community? And that certainly is about our voice, and the resources that we give to organizations. Because we may, in fact, Beacon and other organizations have to contemplate a future where 100% of these resources come from community rather than the federal government. And we need folks to stand with us as we stand with community.
Chris LaTondresse from Beacon Interfaith Housing, thank you so much for giving us a little insight into how things are going on your end. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Tom, for highlighting what's going on.
And we appreciate you joining us, and we invite our fund holders to connect with their philanthropic advisors if you have further questions about this organization or this entire area of work that Beacon and other organizations do. We're excited to work with you to find a plan for giving that works best for you. So please make those connections with your advisor, and thanks for joining us.